Inside the heart of the colossal titan, Gloria Invicta, young Marcus Vale awoke to the echoing clang of metal and the heavy vibration that shook the very air he breathed. The machine around him wasn't just a weapon, it was alive in its own way, groaning and growling like a beast preparing to hunt. The walls dripped with heat and oil, red warning lights flickering across the narrow corridors as the massive reactor began to stir. Marcus had dreamed his whole life of serving aboard one of the god machines of the Imperium, but as he pulled himself from his bunk and felt the iron floor tremble beneath his boots, that dream now felt more like a sentence than an honor. The other crew members rushed past him in silence, faces pale and eyes hollow, each lost in their own rhythm of duty and exhaustion. The scent of burning incense and machine oil filled the air as the tech priests began their morning chants to the Omnissiah, praising the ancient spirit that resided within the Titan's core. Marcus followed orders, connecting power couplings and checking pressure seals, but his mind kept drifting to the thought that this machine, this towering god of war, was somehow watching him. A deep metallic hum spread through the Titan's belly as the princeps, Lady Helena Trask, took her command throne and linked her mind to the Titan's spirit. She was the soul of Gloria Invicta, and when she spoke, even the steel seemed to listen. Power rising. All stations report. Her calm voice echoed through the Vox speakers. Marcus answered quickly, his voice trembling slightly as he read out the stable pressure levels. Around him, the servitors, half machine, half human, moved with slow robotic grace, their eyes glazed, their skin marked with data cables and augmetic scars. He could barely look at them without shivering. They were living proof of what long service to the machine could turn a person into. The ground outside rumbled as the Titan took its first step forward, each movement sending waves of force through the ship-like body. Marcus gripped a railing tightly, his heart pounding with awe and fear as the mighty Gloria Invicta rose from its resting place and marched toward the burning horizon. Through small viewing ports, Marcus caught glimpses of the world beyond, a wasteland of ash and ruin where the sun struggled to pierce the storm clouds. In the distance, enemy war machines moved like dark silhouettes, and he could hear the distant rumble of thunder, or was it gunfire? The crew inside worked in perfect coordination, adjusting valves, chanting blessings, whispering prayers to keep the Titan's spirit calm. But something in the air felt wrong. The hum of the engines grew louder, sharper, almost angry. Marcus turned to check a monitor and his stomach dropped. The reactor temperature was climbing faster than expected. He shouted the reading to his superior and the man cursed under his breath, commanding him to vent the secondary chamber. Marcus obeyed, his fingers flying across the controls as sweat rolled down his neck. The walls shook harder, and a low groan echoed from deep within the machine, almost like a roar of pain. It was the first time Marcus truly believed the Titan had a soul, and that soul was suffering. The battle outside had begun. The Titan's cannons fired, shaking everything inside. Each blast felt like a small earthquake, and Marcus was thrown against the wall more than once. Sparks flew from overhead conduits, lighting up the chamber in bursts of white and gold. Through the comm, he could hear Lady Helena whispering strange words, her voice half human, half synthetic. She was merged with the Titan's mind now, feeling its every wound and fury. "We are one," she murmured, and Marcus could almost feel the machine breathe through her. Then came the impact, an explosion so strong it felt like the world had cracked open. The lights flickered, alarms screamed, and smoke filled the lower decks. Marcus coughed and stumbled to his station, eyes watering. "Seal the conduit," someone shouted. The plasma feed had ruptured, glowing blue energy spilling from the pipes like liquid fire. Without thinking, Marcus grabbed an insulated wrench and ran toward the leak. His gloves sizzled, pain lancing up his arms, but he didn't stop. He twisted the valve shut just before the pressure reached critical. The explosion never came, but the silence that followed was almost worse. He collapsed to his knees, breathing heavily, the sound of the Titan's slow heartbeat pulsing through the deck. For hours they fought both the enemy outside and the damage within. Marcus worked until his arms ached, his lungs burned, and his mind blurred between fear and focus. When the final shots faded, and the Titan stood victorious over the smoking ruins of the battlefield, a heavy quiet settled inside. The crew looked at each other with hollow relief. Lady Helena remained in her throne, eyes closed, body trembling, still connected to the machine spirit. Marcus approached her slowly, hearing the faint hum of energy still surrounding her. She opened her eyes just long enough to whisper, "We endure." That word echoed in his mind as he helped repair what he could. When dawn finally broke through the storm, painting the Titan's armor in pale gold, Marcus climbed up to a small maintenance hatch and looked out over the horizon. The battlefield stretched endlessly, littered with smoke and dust. But amid the ruin, the Titan still stood, tall and proud, its cannons silent, yet ready. He realized then that life inside a Titan was not just about serving, it was about surviving, enduring, and becoming part of something greater than flesh and fear. The machine was cruel, the work was endless, but in that brutal existence Marcus found purpose. The Titan breathed, and so did he. The dawn after the battle painted the shattered landscape in pale gold, and inside Gloria Invicta, the crew stirred to the low, rhythmic pulse of the reactor. The Titan was alive but wounded, its machine spirit uneasy, humming with the deep growl of a creature that had tasted too much pain. Marcus Vale rubbed his tired eyes, his hands still covered in dried oil and burn marks from the night before. Every muscle ached, yet he couldn't rest. None of them could. The command came through the Vox in Lady Helena's steady but weaker voice. Maintenance teams to lower decks. The Titan must walk again before dusk. Her tone was calm, but Marcus could hear the exhaustion beneath it. She hadn't left the command throne since the battle began. It was said that once a princeps merged too long with her Titan, the bond became nearly impossible to break. Sometimes, it even consumed them. As he walked through the narrow corridors filled with flickering lights, Marcus noticed new cracks in the walls, twisted pipes and black scorch marks that told stories of how close they had come to destruction. Servitors were already repairing what they could, their mechanical arms hissing as they welded steel plates over damaged conduits. The air was thick with the smell of smoke and ozone, mixed with the faint scent of burning incense, a reminder that faith and machinery were one and the same here. When Marcus entered the main reactor chamber, he found Senior Engineer Roan performing the Rite of Awakening, chanting in binaric code as holy sparks leapt from his servo arms. "The Titan breathes. The Titan endures," the old priest muttered, his metal voice echoing against the walls. Marcus joined the other crewmen in silent prayer. Even though he was not a true believer in the machine god, he had learned that prayers were as necessary as tools down here. The reactor responded with a deep hum, its glow flickering like a beating heart. "Pressure stabilizing," someone reported, and Marcus allowed himself a small sigh of relief. But before the peace could settle, a new alarm blared through the chamber. The sound was sharp, desperate, a wailing cry that froze everyone in place. Marcus turned toward the readout screen and felt his stomach twist. One of the plasma conduits had ruptured again, this time near the Titan's leg joints. If it wasn't repaired quickly, Gloria Invicta wouldn't be able to move when the next wave of enemies arrived. Without waiting for orders, Marcus grabbed his toolkit and sprinted toward the lower maintenance access. The deeper he went, the darker and hotter it became. Steam hissed from cracked vents, and sparks rained from above like falling stars. He could hear the faint hum of the Titan's mind core pulsing behind the walls like a living heartbeat. It was strange, but he could almost feel its presence guiding him through the chaos. Crawling through a narrow service tunnel, Marcus reached the damaged section, a massive fracture where molten plasma leaked through thick cables, glowing like veins of fire. "Marcus, report," Helena's voice came through the comm, calm but laced with urgency. "Working on it," he shouted back, his voice echoing in the confined space. He could barely breathe as he tightened the seals and replaced the burned insulation plates. The metal was scorching, his gloves nearly melting, but he kept going, his hands moving on instinct and desperation. He had seen what happened to Titans that failed mid-battle, how their crews were trapped inside as the machine became a tomb of steel and smoke. He wasn't going to let that happen here. With one final turn of the wrench, the leak slowed, the glow dimming, until only the soft hum of stable energy filled the chamber. "Pressure restored," Marcus gasped into the comm. There was a pause, then Helena's quiet reply. Good work, crewman Vale. You've saved our legs. And our lives. As he crawled back toward the main deck, Marcus felt a strange vibration under his hands. A slow, rhythmic pulse that didn't come from any machine he knew. For a moment, it almost felt like the Titan was acknowledging him. When he returned to the command chamber, the crew was busy recalibrating systems and feeding power back to the main weapons. Lady Helena still sat in her throne, cables running from her arms and spine into the glowing console around her. Her eyes flickered faintly with the same blue light as the Titan's sensors. Marcus stood silently at his post, watching her lips move in whispers too soft to hear. Then suddenly she turned her head slightly as if sensing his gaze. Do you feel it? She asked quietly. Marcus froze, unsure how to answer. Feel what, my lady? He asked. Her eyes unfocused, staring somewhere far beyond the walls. The Titan remembers. It dreams between battles. It hungers to walk again. Her voice sent a chill through him. He had always thought of the Titan as a weapon, but now he realized it was more than that. It was a living god of metal and fire, and he was part of its pulse. By nightfall, Gloria Invicta stood ready once more. The external plating was patched, the reactor stable, and the weapons armed. Outside, the horizon burned red with the approach of another storm, and the enemy signal echoes began to appear on the Auspex screen. Marcus returned to his post, strapping himself into his harness, as the Titan's massive frame began to stir. The deck trembled, and deep below, the engines roared to life. All systems green, Engenzir Roan reported. Lady Helena raised her head, eyes glowing brighter now. Then we march, she said, and with that, Gloria Invicta took its first mighty step into the storm once again. Marcus felt the vibration through his bones, the weight of a god walking the earth, and he knew that the horrifying life inside the Titan was also the most extraordinary existence he could ever imagine.